Have you ever noticed something strange? Some people can name every player on a team, remember scores from years ago, and feel emotionally destroyed after a match. But then there are other people. People who simply don't care. They don't scream at the TV. They don't fight over teams. They don't spend hours discussing transfers, statistics, or championships. And strangely, these people are often judged for it. People say, "How can you not like sports? Are you even human? What do you even do for fun?" But psychologically, people who don't obsess over sports often think very differently from the crowd. And today, we're going to break down the hidden psychology behind them. Because not caring about sports can reveal far more about a person's mind than most people realize. Sports are one of the biggest emotional systems in human society. They create identity, belonging, competition, tribal loyalty, status, emotional release. For millions of people, sports become more than entertainment. They become part of who they are. So when someone doesn't emotionally connect to sports at all, it stands out. And psychology actually has fascinating explanations for why. Humans naturally form tribes. It's ancient psychology. Thousands of years ago, survival depended on belonging to a group. And even today, our brains still crave us versus them. That's why people become deeply attached to teams. My team, our victory. We destroyed them, even though they never actually played the game. Sports give people a safe modern version of tribal belonging. But people who don't obsess over sports often get identity from somewhere else. Ideas, creativity, music, business, books, technology, personal goals, online communities, self-development. Their sense of identity is usually more individual than collective. Instead of saying, "I belong to this team," their brain focuses more on, "I want to build my own life." Sports are emotional dopamine machines. Crowds, noise, victory, suspense, celebration. The brain loves emotional unpredictability, especially when surrounded by other excited people. That shared emotional energy creates psychological contagion. One person screams, everyone screams. One person panics, everyone panics. Emotion spreads through groups extremely fast. But some people are naturally less stimulated by collective emotional highs. Their brains may prefer quiet stimulation, deep thinking, solo hobbies, or internal satisfaction. This doesn't make them boring. It simply means their dopamine system is triggered differently. Some people feel alive in a stadium. Others feel alive alone with headphones, a laptop, or a late-night conversation. This is interesting. People who don't obsess over sports are often more detached observers of social behavior. Instead of emotionally merging into the crowd, they watch the crowd itself. They notice things like, why do people become aggressive over teams? Why do strangers suddenly feel emotionally connected because of colors and logos? Why do people let games affect their entire mood for days? And psychologically, this observer mindset creates emotional distance. The more analytical someone becomes, the harder it is for them to fully surrender to group emotion. That's why highly introspective people sometimes struggle to become emotionally invested in massive social trends. Not just sports, but celebrity culture, hype, or internet mobs too. Sports are emotionally exhausting. One moment, hope. Next moment, rage. Then celebration. Then disappointment. Then obsession again. For some people, this emotional roller coaster feels exciting. For others, it feels unnecessary. People who avoid sports obsession often prefer emotional stability over emotional intensity. Their brain unconsciously asks, "Why should my happiness depend on strangers kicking a ball?" And honestly, that question is psychologically reasonable. Some personalities are simply more protective of their emotional energy. They don't like attaching their mood to outcomes they can't control. Sports fans live heavily in the present emotional moment. The game, the excitement, the rivalry. But many non-obsessive personalities focus more on long-term personal progress. Their attention naturally shifts toward skills, money, health, creative projects, career growth, or self-improvement. To them, spending hours emotionally invested in sports can feel mentally unproductive. Now, this doesn't mean sports fans are lazy. Not at all. But psychologically, different people assign value differently. Some people value entertainment most. Others value progress most. And the brain follows whatever feels meaningful. This is deeper than most people realize. Many people bond through sports during childhood, school conversations, friend groups, family traditions. But people who never connected with sports early on sometimes grow up feeling slightly outside those social circles. And over time, their brain adapts by building identity elsewhere. Books instead of matches, internet instead of stadiums, solitude instead of group excitement. Eventually, not caring about sports becomes part of their personality itself. Not because they hate sports, but because psychologically, they never emotionally attached to that world in the first place. Here's the biggest reason. Some people constantly search for depth. They become obsessed with human behavior, psychology, purpose, philosophy, success, pain, relationships, or self-awareness. And compared to those things, sports may feel emotionally temporary to them. A game ends. A trophy is lifted. The internet moves on. But understanding people, understanding yourself, feels more permanent. So their brain naturally prioritizes deeper mental stimulation over competitive entertainment. But here's the irony. People who don't obsess over sports are often judged as less social. Yet many of them understand human psychology extremely well. Because when you stand outside the crowd, you start seeing the crowd more clearly. You notice how identity works, how tribalism works, how emotions spread, how people seek belonging. And suddenly, sports stop looking like just games. They start looking like a window into human nature itself. So no, people who don't obsess over sports aren't necessarily cold, boring, or emotionless. Their brains are simply stimulated by different things. Some people chase collective excitement. Others chase understanding. And psychology says both are deeply human. Because in the end, what we obsess over quietly reveals who we are. If this video made you see people differently, subscribe to youtube.com for more deep psychology content. And tell me in the comments, do sports unite people or control them emotionally?